So finally, we're online. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tonight with Me, our live show that we do with prominent guests, whips from the Java universe. And today we'll have for the second time Andres Almiray, and he will hacking with me on the Maven Shade plugin source code again. And if you cannot remember what we did, then let me show you a bit what we're done in the past and what we will do today evening. So let me switch here. So in the past we did a live show. I think it was in April, and in that live show we did a small property extension to the Maven Shade plugin. It was named the skip property, and the intention was that you can use it for temporarily skipping the execution of the shading. Why I want to do that? Because, for example, I'm a Maven Shade contributor, and sometimes I experience problems when using the Maven Shade plugin in real-world scenarios, and people call me for help. And what I try to find out is the problem from a bug in the Shade plugin, or is the problem from the original jar? And for that, I try to execute the same build just by giving skip to true, so there will be temporarily no shading, and I will see if the problem is gone. So there's just one scenario why we want to have that property. Certainly there are much more scenarios, and so we did this small property and tests for that and a small documentation, and we opened this pull request on GitHub. And then we thought the Maven community will be eagerly adopting it because it's so great. It's the greatest extension to Maven ever, okay? And the inverse was the case. They had a lot of complaints, and they didn't like the idea or that we did that at all, because they want to get rid of that skipping, and they don't like the style that we did, and they don't like the fact that we were not using Groovy and all that. And so after a long discussion, we came to the end that if we want to have it in the Maven Shade plugin, then we simply have to do what they ask for. It's their project, they are the committers, we're not. So we thought maybe it's a good idea to do another live show and do all what they asked us to do. And well, so here we are. And today we will try if we understand what they want us to do, and if we manage to do all the changes. And if I have seen correctly, then Andres is here already. So let me skip the view so you can see Andres. Hello Andres, how are you? See, you're on the Enterprise today.
Hey, oh, well, not necessarily. This is the USS Cerritos.
Oh my god, sorry for that.
I'm still in Star Trek, yes.
You can do that thing. I cannot.
Yeah, of course.
If I try doing that, it looks weird. And I don't have the Spock ears. You need the Spock ears for that. Yeah, Andres, how are you?
Great. So it's been a full day of online events. So that's why I was a few minutes late, but I'm finally here. So thank you very much, Marcos. So as you said, the point of today is to see how far we can go with this contribution. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to say is that we had an idea of where we wanted this contribution to go. And it is expected that when you open a ticket on the issue track case, there wasn't much discussion early on before we work on the code. So we got the discussion afterwards. And this is something that can happen. And it's not to discourage any newcomers that would like to get started in open source. Is that, as it turns out, we had a vision of where we want the feature to go, but the Maven team had a different one. And there were some unknowns from our point of view that we had no clue. And the Maven team was looking at some other features, some of the reasons why our implementation should be changed. We did not understand at the beginning why. I guess it was a little bit of, it was obvious for one team, for one set of people, but it was not obvious to us. And again, that can happen. And the point is that because we're able to continue in this conversation, this dialogue, eventually we got all the different points cleared out. And now we have a much better understanding why the Maven team will prefer things to be changed and how the things can be changed.
Okay, that's great that you say we have that view on what they want to have and why they didn't want us to do that. Actually, I never understood what my fault was. So it's good that you understand what we have to do today. And I think we should not squander any more time and go directly into the code. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go into the code. So I guess I'll share the screen. So desktop number 2. And here we go. So let's move that out of the way. So we have back our fork of the Maven Shade plugin. And we added one integration test case, which is, where are you? It's this one, Maven Shade 382. That is the number of the issue and the POM file. And again, everything that we did is so that you can write the skip property.
It's a bit sad that I cannot manage to make you larger on screen, actually. So Zoom just froze the menu bar. But anyway, I think if you share your screen, then this should be fine.
I'm sharing the screen. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, I'm going to stop and then share it again.
Okay.
Share desktop number 2, and I'm showing IntelliJ.
Actually,
can you see it?
Actually, I think it's a problem that yeah, I restarted.
And can you see it now?
Yeah, I restarted the Zoom client and now it's working again, and now I can see your screen share. That's an interesting bug, actually. But now I have a different problem because he thinks I'm logged in twice, and that reduces our chat time for 30 minutes or so.
Oh, then we have to be either quick or try to kick out your other clone.
I don't know how I can kick it out.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. Then we have a time.
Now it's gone. Now it's gone. Okay, managed it.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, so we're in the configuration file, and hopefully, yes, I'm checking it. All the YouTubers can see the config file also. Fine, so we managed the technical troubles and go right into the solution how Robert wants us. Oh my god, what you are drinking there.
Yeah, so there are two main things. One, production code. So the thing that they say is that, I don't know why it's in red, probably, JDK 5. So that's probably one thing that I need to do, or maybe you just type skip. Here we go. Now, am I blind here? Because supposedly we have a property, right? A property like shade skip.
Yes.
And this is the property that they disagree. Why?
To the name. They disagree to the name, actually.
No, not just the name, but the whole property.
Oh.
Because if we have a property like this, then you can type the following in the command line. I can say Maven -d shade skip like this, or even skip through if I want to, and then invoke package or any other thing. So what is going to happen is that this external property will change the behavior of the build tool and the final artifact will either be shaded or not.
Yeah, sure,
So,
but I understood, Robert, in a way that we just have to remove the default name and can keep the property itself.
no, so what I understood is that they want the whole property to be gone completely. Why? Because they want to close down the option for any property, any plugin that exposes a property that changes an artifact. That kind of configuration should be always explicit and should be found in the POM file so that it can lead into reproducible builds.
But just one thing I do not understand. If you switch to the, or let me just switch for the audience. The audience will see the original discussion. And sorry, I have too many windows open. And the last comment of Robert was actually that he wrote the parameter should have the general skip name. And so I thought we can keep it. Or I did not understand why he said that.
So once we have this, we have just a parameter and we don't expose a custom property. Let me do something. So where do I have a terminal? Yes, like this. Now let's go into, so where is it now? It's in the target directory. There we go. And let's look into, I think it's going to be in classes, Maven, plugin XML. Here we go. And let's search for a skip. There's a parameter skip with this value. So this is fine. Let's compare that with a parameter that defines a property like this one, shade sources content. You find that, and this one just has parameter, type, required editable description, so the same information. So the difference is here in the configuration says, I guess, nothing more. That's interesting. I guess it works. What do you think, Marcus?
I cannot follow you what you actually are just looking up.
Because I thought that any parameter that had something like this property defining the annotation,
yes,
would add something extra here in the definition of parameter. So we got name, the type, if it's required, if it's editable, and some description. And if we do a search, then we have the block for the configuration that also says these are all the elements that you can have access to, and there's the shade source content.
Actually, I need to say that I don't know this file at all. When I'm writing plugins, I only use Java code and the annotations. I don't know what this file does that you have here.
This is the descriptor that Maven internally uses to find information about your modules. So there is the plugin descriptor and the plugin help. Both of them contain pretty much the same information. If we look for a skip, the skip has the same information as the other property. That is the name, type, scenes required, editable, and description. So there is nothing different from the point of view right now in these files that are generated by the build, whether I have an explicit property here or one here. So we can tell that this is different by doing the following. We do property, say the skip, then go back and generate everything. I know some people will complain that I'm going to do a clean package, but I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. Just to be extra sure that there's nothing fishy going on. So those descriptors should be regenerated from scratch. And when I look here for a skip, there's a difference. this tells me this is the block configuration that's going to be on my POM file. There, the name is a skip, and it happens to have a default value coming from a project property whose name is shade skip. This will allow me to override the value on the command line. And this is what the Maven team said, please don't do that. So by going back to this and regenerating the descriptor, then the script property that you put in the configuration block of your plugin will not be able to be overridden using a project property. Now we go back to this, and that's the difference.
Okay, so if we want to use that new property, then we cannot provide its name on a command line anymore. We have to definitively change the POM of the using code.
At least not by default coming from the plugin. Because what we can still do is the following. Say here, and this is as if you were the consumer. So you define a properties block, and then say any property, my shade skip. I will say it true. Any name you want to. And I go here in the configuration block, and now I can say this. So this is a conscious decision. This is something that you explicitly must do in your consumer POM. And if you're doing this explicitly, it may be for a reason, maybe something that you really need, or maybe there is some misinformation that is coming down the pipeline. But because we do not provide a default property name, then the only way for you to define the value of this property, the skip property configuration, using a command line is if you do it explicitly. Otherwise, the only way that you can do this is by putting explicit value like that.
Yeah,
and this is what the Maven team wants.
Yeah, I understand what I want, but what I not have understood so far is when I'm defining my own property name here, then I'm pretty much able to do what they don't want us to do.
Correct.
So what's the benefit actually?
The benefit is that that the Maven Shade plugin doesn't let you do this out of the box with minimal configuration, so that you might inadvertently change the behavior of your build by setting a property by mistake.
So Robert doesn't like me to tell that, but the first thing I will do is I put this code in my parent POM of all my projects, so I can do it again.
I understand the vision they have of trying to close down these options. I do not share that vision, but there's another thing also that is very true. I do not maintain the Maven project. I'm not a Maven committer. I also don't have the full vision as a Maven contributor or as a Maven committer of if I make this decision down the road, how many builds and how the consumers will be affected. Sure. Is it providing this feature out of the box something that is going to harm more than help? Now, for those like us that we have this very specific use case, for us it's quite clear how we want to use the skip feature. There may be those people, the other developers that for which it's not very clear. And having the default settings and so easily be able to change the configuration with apparently a very simple property could cause havoc. Yeah. So that's why they want to close it down.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's more difficult for anybody to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I understand they have a different vision. The problem with Maven in general is that all those information, this big picture they have in their brain is not publicly documented somewhere. So it's rather hard to learn what they want to do and what they don't want you to do. So it would be a good idea if the Maven team would spend some time in publishing this information, so we know upfront, because the discussions are hard to follow when you have to open that can of worms and everybody tells you don't do this, don't do that, we don't like this, we don't like that. It would be much easier if they give this information up front, so we can do it right from the start.
Right, definitely, for sure. And of course, because every Maven committer is working in their spare time as volunteers. There's no company paying for development of Maven. That's a shame, given that Maven powers the Java ecosystem. Without Maven, imagine if this thing just breaks irreparably and there's no one there to fix it, it will be chaos. So, given that, what can we do as consumers and members of the Maven community? We could help with opening the discussion and perhaps helping with forums. And by a forum I mean like an online event where we have half a day perhaps of people coming together discussing, and with Maven team and other people just writing code and writing these decisions and putting these things in documentation. Maybe it's in a couple of sessions, maybe some sort of hacker garden, maybe it's hack commit push, maybe some other hackathon. But the fact that if we are able to have these spaces for where we can grab the Maven committers for a couple of hours and get that content, get that knowledge and write it down, I think that will definitely benefit everybody.
Yeah, that would be really terrific, and that's a great idea. So I actually like to invite everybody from the Maven core team, every committer to come to Javaland, for example, or to any other larger community event, and provide a session where you share this hidden information. Or let's organize a hackathon, like Andres said. That's a pretty good idea. So Robert, you're welcome. Please call me for this.
Well, here's a call to action before we get into the code. So the call to action is for two audiences. One is the makers of events like Javaland, the organizing committees. Please allot some time for this kind of for community events. Please also do not dismiss a Maven talk just because, oh, it's Maven, oh, it's XML. Everybody knows Maven. Everybody should know Maven by now. That's not true. We have already shown that even though we too know how Maven works in some way, we still have some problems understanding why some of the stuff that we have to do has to be done in that way, right?
Right.
And for the audience, please ask for content creators and ask the project, the conference organizers, ask for these spaces, ask for these sessions, give them feedback. If you want to know more about specifically Maven, then ask them so that there is Maven content in any of those conferences that you participate on.
Yeah, I just can offer you, I'm in the committee that decides about the community events at Javaland. If somebody from the Maven team is willing to share his knowledge, we can find a time slot where you have time to discuss all that great ideas about your vision about Maven. I think that would be a session that would be highly appreciated by a lot of people. So really call me and we will find a slot for you. So, okay, let's go on with the code. So we have understood we need to do some homework. We cannot simply have a default name. We have to provide our own property. And with that own property in our POM, we can manually enable the skipping. And now the question is, if there was more that they wanted us to do. I have read something about changing the tests, I think.
Yes. So the first thing in the production code was to make sure that we're not exposing that property. So that's fine. Now, the next thing that we need to find out is that Robert asked us to change how some of the test cases are done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm currently looking at the discussion. So I can put it here. Where is that? There's the window. And so we have quite a discussion going back and forth on this and that and not. And then eventually, Robert gave us some guidance. Here we go.
Yeah, he opened 2 threads, right?
So the first one is our unit test case, where if you remember, let's open this shade module test in the IDE. And that will be this one, where what we did was copy an existing method, this one test method, and we modified it so that we could test out our skip property. We just follow what we saw in that particular test case.
Right, because we didn't know how to do it any better, actually.
Yeah, and we're using reflection and we're invoking the mojo in certain way that is not the standard way, which is through the Maven Plugin. And that's exactly what Robert says here. Well, yeah, it's a unit test and uses reflection, but that's not kind of like the way that we like to test things out. So he says, don't test this in unit, just test it with integration.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's saying is that this whole method right here, don't do that. This whole method, just delete. Goodbye. You're gone. That's it. And that takes care of that. And the second thing he says is that in the integration test case, we use bin shell to verify the output of the execution. And if you remember, bin shell is one of the earliest attempts to have some sort of scripting capabilities for Java.
Yeah.
It's basically Java syntax, but you don't need a main class. It's all done for you. And you may have some other niceties as I think property access is available. But at some point, Groovy came out. The first version of Groovy was released, or the project started in 2003. And so it got some traction. And eventually, Groovy found its way into the Apache Foundation since 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it close to 7 now? And before it became an Apache project, Groovy was already used extensively across different Apache projects as an alternative to bin shell. So if we have a look at the integration test cases, you see that there are some very old that use bin shell, and there are newer that use a Groovy script. So what Robert is asking us is to switch from using bin shell and go into using Groovy.
So this is one of the key points that I imagine people should know upfront and would be interesting to see in a session about the Maven internals. If you're writing tests, don't go with bin shell, go with Groovy. So that's a decision of the core team and we just have to follow it. So essentially we have to throw away the BSH file and write a Groovy file with the same content, more or less.
Yes, so where we have this verify script, and that is here, verify bin shell. Now, for those who do not know Groovy, let me show you how simple it is to turn this into a Groovy script.
Oh, that's interesting, because I'm not a Groovian.
Look how easy it is. First thing, I rename the file from verify.bsh to verify.groovy. Second thing is I'm done. This is valid Groovy code.
Yeah. So Groovy essentially is also a scripted version of Java.
It's a language that was born as a dynamic version of Java, as a complement to Java, not as a replacement. So you might have heard of any other alternative JVM languages, Scala, Kotlin, that try to kill Java, try to replace Java. Groovy is not like that. Groovy has always been a complement. Java is static, Groovy is dynamic, although Groovy now can also be static. But that's the whole point. If there's something that is a little bit cumbersome or maybe impossible to do in Java, you can do it with Groovy. And Groovy has some niceties as, for example, this package Java IO is imported by default, so you don't have to do it. IntelliJ also tells me that if it's Groovy code, I can just omit the semicolons if I want to. Another thing that I can do, and this is just a matter of a style, is strings can use double quotes like in Java, or can use single quotes.
And
we're going to leave it as, the difference is that if I have a variable, for example, some variable, a string, name equals Marcus, proper name. Yeah. And now I can say, well, no, actually, let's do this. This is the name of the jar. Let's call this artifact ID. And now I do a string version will be 1.0. So with double quotes, I now can say this. I can do what is called variable interpolation.
Okay, that's like in Bash.
Like in Bash, exactly. But as long as you have double quotes, if I put this in single quotes, then this becomes the exact text. There is no variable interpolation.
Yeah, it's exactly like Bash. You switch off the interpolation by the single quote. Right. I didn't know that. So I learned something today. That's great.
So we don't need variable interpolation here. And it's a tiny nanosecond difference when the compiler looks at a string like this and says, oh, it's something that is mutable. Remember, in Java, strings are immutable. But these kind of strings in Groovy are known as Groovy strings. And they have the potential to be mutable. So the compiler will do extra operations to figure that out. But of course, there's nothing. So if you really care about performance, then you will make this an immutable string. In our case, it's fine. We just leave it as it is. We could have a look at any other Groovy scripts that they could be around here and see what kind of convention they follow.
Yeah, there are none.
Okay. So they use double script. They use double quotes. And they define variables and do a lot of assertions. And look that there are no semicolons. Right? So I guess we're good to go.
Okay, fine.
The other thing that we could do is turn this into a def.
Well, what's the difference between a def and a file? Is this like var in Java 11?
It's like var in JavaScript. In that it lets you define a variable, but you do not define the type. So this is the dynamic type. At runtime, Groovy knows that this is of type file. So that's why you can call exist. So there are different thoughts in whether you should use the explicit type in Groovy or should you use the dynamic type. If we were to follow what they are using in the other files, look like, of course, they need a constructor, but they go with def. Why? Because it's three characters instead of 4.
Okay.
And it might be obvious, depending on the name, that this thing is a file. Right?
Right, yeah.
From our point of view, our script is so simple that it could be either way. My personal recommendation as a Groovy developer, as a member of the Groovy development team, is that this is a very funny phrase by Dick Koenig, the author of Groovy in Action. If I see a type in my mind, I type it. What does that mean? If he knows that this thing is a file, then use file. Why would you use def if you know this is a file and cannot be something else?
Because it looks so modern.
Right. So it's a matter of taste. There's no wrong answer here. Would you like to use def or would you like to use explicit type?
Okay, understood.
So given that the other Groovy scripts are used def, and I guess if we continue to search for other Groovy scripts, there's another def. Let's go with the same approach.
Okay.
Let's put it like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Good. So we have modified our test cases. And let's break this test case. How do we break it?
Why do you want to break it?
Because we had to start with a red test case.
Well, it was a red test case the last time already.
Oh, it was a green test case.
Yeah, in the end.
Right, exactly. So first I want to prove that we're back into the state where we were before. That is,
okay,
skip equals false. So this is the default state. Nothing gets a skip. The shading will occur, in which case this file will exist and that will break the test case, right?
Yeah, I actually got the message from Zoom that the fact that I was logged in twice enabled the limit and we have 10 minutes to go. So we have to hurry up.
So we're gonna run the test case right here. So I figured out, we discussed last time that if there was a way to run test cases, just one integration test case, yes, there is a way. And this is how we're gonna do it. Maven, and then we say -d invoker test, and pass the name of the project. The project is mshade 382 skip execution. So that's mshade. No, that's in a different command line.
Typing.
mshade 382 skip execution. And if I type it correctly, it's even better. Right.
Okay.
And we also need to enable a profile, which is the run integration test cases profile.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to say which goal we want, in this case, verify. Okay, so this will run regular unit test cases and then run the integration test case, for which I know there's going to be one failure regarding the parent and the second failure, which is what we changed, the skip property. So there should be two failures. In just a moment. There we go. First failure, that's expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second failure, because we switched the configuration. That's fine. Now, let's check that this goes back to what we want, which is turn this to true.
Yeah.
And then run the test cases again. And we will have, again, two test cases, one failing and another successful. The second one is the one that we expect to be successful. Yeah, here we go. It's about to run. First one will fail right here, and the second should be green. There we go. Success.
Yeah, great.
Perfect.
Great, cool. So we learned another thing, how to run a single integration test. That's also a thing I would have been missing in the past a lot of times. If I would know that earlier, it would help me lots of hours where I waited for all the tests I want to skip, actually.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
This is much, much better. Okay, so I think that we have addressed everything from Robert.
Yes. Yes, there's just one question I have. Robert has shown a single line for the whole test. And what do you prefer, the long variant or the short line that he's written here?
Well, let's see. So we are asserting not new file exists. This is definitely the shortest version of writing code. So what he's suggesting is to do this. So this expression is found right there. So we are not defining a variable. And on that thing, we call exist. And this assertion will simply say, we expect it true and it's false. Whereas in this case, we're saying explicit message, shading was not skipped. I believe there's a way that we can say something like this. So if there's an assertion error, we get this value, shading was not skipped. I guess this will be the most complete option. How we can test this? Let's make the test file again. Let's see if we get that custom message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this looks rather concise if you have just one line that says what you want to test. That's really cool. If it works.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Now it's gonna run. First failure, okay.
So that that assert keyword, that's something from Groovy.
It's enriched by Java. I mean, it's enriched by Groovy, but it's the same keyword as in Java.
Ah, it's the same keyword as in Java. Okay, because in Java you have to switch it on. It's ignored normally.
Ah, because that's one of the things that Groovy does. It switches assertions by default.
Ah, okay, I understand.
Because, well, if there's something that you want to do, right? So why do you need to switch it explicitly? Just go.
Yeah, I never understood that actually. Yeah.
So, we get the message. It's right there.
Yeah,
shading was not skipped. There we go.
So we did everything that Robert proposed that we shall do, and I hope, even if the time runs out in a few minutes, that they will be happy with our contribution now, and you also learned a lot just like I did. I learned a lot today, in particular how great Groovy is. And I hope this wasn't the last time that we had a chance to see Andres coding, possibly in the next Hacker Garden. So if you're around there, just say hello to us. We would be happy if you come to Hacker Garden or to any other event where Andres or I am, for example, in next Javaland. Okay, was great to have you here again, Andres. And they cannot see you because you still do screen sharing. Is there anything you want to tell the audience before Zoom kicks us out?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to attempt make it a commit right now? Do you think we still have time?
You can do if you like.
Okay. So how we did it last time? Yeah, this. I want to grab this. There we go.
I didn't co-author anything. I just
was drinking
my beer.
So what we're gonna say is mshade 382. Okay. So mshade 382. And we say co-author, and what we say is apply review suggestions. What we do is remove unit test case and change IT script, no, verification script from Bean Shell to Groovy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we commit, and then I push.
What is git OK?
That's my alias for push. Because I'm too lazy to type 4 characters instead of.
Okay. Yeah, you have to spare keystrokes. They're so expensive.
Okay, so if we go here, there it is.
Ta-da!
There we go, and it's even verified.
So, everybody, you can see in just about 30 minutes, Andres was able to explain everything that Robert wanted us to do and fix it and explain how great Groovy is and to explain how to run a single unit test. And this was really great, and I'm really thankful, Andres, that you told us how to do that. It was a great day. and I just see you have conflicting files, but I think
Yeah,
we
we have a
don't
conflict.
have
So
soon
how do we
soon
solve
time for
this?
that. Okay, you can try it, but Zoom will
Yeah.
kick you out in a second.
GitHub upstream master. So we refresh master.
Yeah.
And I push to origin.
You want to prove that you can do it in just 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's see. So I push to origin. So now I go back to my branch. I do git rebase master. Hopefully there are no merge conflicts. Damn, there's a merge conflict. So we might not be able to do it very quickly. Git merge rule. Let's see if it happens.
This is speed programming. Is a new sport.
Abstract module, yeah. So I don't know. So there are a few things like this resource transform that I might not be able to do it right now because we're pressure on time and I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah.
But basically, that's what we're going to do. We just need to rebase the branch and figure everything out. And once it's done, just force push to my branch, and that will update the pull request.
Definitively. And often what I do in such cases is I just restart the branch from master and cherry pick my 2 commits. That's much easier.
Well, yeah, you can do that too.
Okay, Andres, that was really great to have you here. Even if it was a shorter show today, it was really an amazing show. It's always great to see you programming. You're really a wizard. Oh, unfortunately, Zoom time is off, so Andres is gone. Sorry. If anybody wants to donate some euros into Zoom so we can do longer shows, you know my account number. Okay, so where's the camera? The camera is gone. Oh, it's broken. I don't know why, but the camera is broken in OBS. All the cameras. I have several cameras here. Oh my gosh! I just wanted to say thank you but it's not working anymore. Deactivate. No. What a mess. Why is that? Yeah, I don't know what happened. Actually, all the cameras are black. I don't know why. I can't repair it. Anyway, we're at the end of the show, and I want to say thank you again to Andres Almiray for being here and showing us all the great things we learned today. And the beer is nearly empty, so it's time to call it a day. Was a great show with lots of problems. We have great comments. What? Yeah, about Groovy. I really love you all for being in the show. It's so great to do the show for you. And sorry for all the technical troubles today. I don't know, anything was broken. Oh, what a mess. Anyway, have a nice rest of the Friday. Have a nice weekend. And we'll see you in the next episode of this show. And then we will do some OpenJDK hacking. And that will be really, really great. Be there in about 4 weeks or so on this channel. Same place, same time. See you. Goodbye. Good night.